Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. As you can see, fresh new look, shaved, so there you have it. But back from another video, just FYI, I will be heading off to a party, little college party this Saturday, so I probably will not be uh, around for the weekend. So I'm hoping to get some videos done today and tomorrow. Today being Thursday, this will be uploaded on Friday. Hopefully, I'll have some content for you guys to view, and obviously, I'll be very careful while I'm up there. First time at a college party, so any tips would be nice if anybody has any for just dealing with these sort of things. But yeah, I just wanted to do this video because I thought about it, and it's in response really to just generally how things are right now, and I'm curious what you guys think, because there's a lot of fatigue going on right now with regards to mainstream properties, with like a lot of comic book stuff and a lot of just big tent poles. There's just appears to be a lot of fatigue going on, and it's starting to become extremely specific as to what kind of films people will invest into or not invest into. Case in point, the most recent entry in the Marvel Universe, Thunderbolts, doesn't seem to be doing all that well. Even though it's gotten good reception, fair reception, clearly has not resonated with audiences, and a lot of the reasons for that is because of what I've illustrated. It's just not really a notable team per se, and they're doing the whole spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, but the whole Avengers gimmick that they're trying to put on, that clearly hasn't helped. But just generally with the series, people have just become really disenchanted by it. There's some caveats to it, as per the series, the franchises that I will be listing here. There will be some caveats, there will be some exceptions, but ultimately, as it stands, per how the franchise is going right now, things are in decline. And I just wanted to illustrate some franchises that I believe will eventually die out. Like, I think that these franchises will not have longevity, especially thinking like 20 so years from now. I just don't see them really existing in major ways, or even at all, to be frank. So I just wanted to just illustrate my point through 5 specific franchises that I feel are going to die out pretty soon here. And you guys let me know what you guys think and what franchises you believe will not stand the test of time. So let's get into it. So the first one that I want to bring up, it's an obvious one, and I feel it's almost the point of where all this fatigue has really started from when it comes to mainstream content, and also in some respects kind of the source of the formula that Hollywood operates under now. And that is Star Wars. I just think that currently, and I think by trajectory with where Star Wars is going to be, I think that Star Wars is just not a series that's going to have much life in it for long term. And the reason for that is because of just the amount of content that has been procured to us for the past couple of years. Obviously, it came back in prominence with The Force Awakens, which is now one of the highest grossing films of all time. And as a result of that also, there was a trend of content that is still happening today that's now almost the norm, just the basic practice of how you create storytelling within mainstream content. The Force Awakens kind of gave life to that, and it's not solely to do with that. I mean, there's obviously other factors at play, but a film like The Force Awakens is what Hollywood would love to have once again. They want to have that kind of effect that The Force Awakens had. And, as a result, you see a lot of studios falling into a similar pattern of how they craft their stories. And in the case of Disney, the people who hold that series, just putting out tons of content or lack thereof to give the series just life throughout the years. We've had many, many television series. Of course, we had The Mandalorian, which was a standout. And we've had just movie announcements after movie announcements after movie announcements. And it seems like now, at least, that there might be some kind of push for some kind of Star Wars film. But there's still a lot of influx. You know, we don't know what's happening with the Rey film. We don't know if there's anything else beyond what Ryan Gosling's film is. Like, we don't know. It's very, very hard to determine what is the future of Star Wars. And I think that is probably where it's going to be for quite a long time, is this doubtful place of where things are going to go. You know, is there a reboot potentially for the future? It's sacred to a lot of fans, but ultimately I would not be surprised if that was a discussion like maybe 15 years down the line. Because I just don't think that Star Wars has that sort of life anymore. I don't even think that these new films that are coming out with The Mandalorian and Grogu and this new other film coming out, I doubt that they're really going to regenerate massive interest for the series. I just think the series ultimately has, it came back and they tried to stay, but it just they overstayed their welcome. And I feel people are just now exhausted with the series and are just desiring less than more at this point when it comes to the brand. So, second series that I would bring up, I kind of illustrated it when I was introducing the, kind of getting us into this, getting into the list. My second choice would be, of course, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I severely doubt that this series is going to have longevity because of just current issues that plague it right now. We've had many flops. I mean, just right now, Marvel has not had a great track record. Like, the only thing that I can think of that they potentially had success with this year is the Daredevil series. But even there, I've heard that those numbers are not particularly great. But we have seen that Captain America 4 flopped. Thunderbolts is looking to flop. We have other flops that have happened. The Marvels, Ant-Man 3, just lots of failure. And once again, there are some bright spots. We have Deadpool and Wolverine most recently. And some bright spots potentially for the future with the new Avengers films and Spider-Man. Like, next year, we'll definitely see a flux up, then a flux down. But the problem with the series is that it's trying to move itself in a different direction, but a lot of people are just not fond of that direction because of a lack of both innovation and real development. Because a lot of the people that we're being introduced to, we don't really know who they are, and we don't, like, by billing of how they choose to present them, it's hard to really get behind these characters when they're trying to be posed as the next of something. Like, we have the next Iron Man now with this Ironheart thing. We have the next Black Panther. We have the next Captain America. We have the next Avengers team now. Like, we have all these new generations, these new iterations, but we don't have a lot of attachments to the people that occupy these teams or these specific characters because we're not fully introduced to them. And to now believe that they are going to be helming the series moving forward, it's just hard to really get all that invested. And there's now little pockets of the MCU that people seem to enjoy, like some of the television series. Very rarely, it seems nowadays, with the films, more or less to do in standalone iterations, not with like the overall stories. It's a series I feel is going to, like, it's already kind of lost the plot in some regard because of what happened with Jonathan Majors. And plotting the series in a very specific way, and then now they had to change directions completely. But I just don't think that the series is going to hold much life because of just a lack of real interest. Like, it's just boiling down to that, similar to that of Star Wars, where I just feel that people are just getting exhausted by sheer amount, mind you. I mean, Star Wars is a lot to do with just how much was packed in a very specific time. The Marvel Cinematic Universe as it stands is over 30 movies. There's going to become a point where people just are not going to care because of how much they literally have to sit through in order to understand the next part of the series. It's just going to become a lot, and you're going to see less attendance as a result. And the ambitions are, they're very, very significant. I don't think anybody's ever been able to do something like this, but at least in film proper. But it's eventually going to wane, and it's going to get tiresome, and it's going to become just exhausting to have to even understand like one specific movie. It's just going to become a lot for the viewer, and we're seeing that effect now, and I feel that that's going to just really take shape as the years go along, and become even more of a problem, and less so of, like this wasn't really an issue back then because there was an actual storyline for starters. There was characters that people liked, but there wasn't as much content to worry about. Now we have all these movies plus all the TV shows. It's just way too much. It's just way, way too much. And I think that that's going to really affect the viewer more than it is currently right now. I think it's going to get even worse over time because of just purely of how much is required to understand what's going on, potentially. So. And then with number 3, to go to the opposite side, I'm going to count the DC universe. And I do mean the James Gunn one, the one that's currently taking shape, and just generally with DC. DC has never been one for series. DC is always at its best when it's a standalone stories. And I think in regards to this James Gunn iteration, I just don't see it really being taking off. If you're asking me personally, I really don't. I think that it will end up doing probably as much as Man of Steel did, and Man of Steel wasn't a massive success. I mean, did enough to satisfy, but I don't think that that's going to translate to every other DC film. I just don't think so. I just don't think people are as invested into the character of Superman, so therefore you're not starting the DC universe off on the right foot. And excuse me, for another, I just don't think currently with the state of Marvel, I just don't think people are just all that interested right now when it comes to being introduced to another universe that they now have to follow and listen to with the TV shows and the movies and all that stuff. It's just too freaking much. It's too much. And people are just fatigued, and they don't necessarily care to invest. And I doubt that that's going to mean much for the DC universe. They've had their struggles already with trying to compete with Marvel in the past, with Zack Snyder's, whole universe that fell apart very quickly because of just how much they were wanting things to happen so that they can meet, in Marvel's current universe. But now it seems like it doesn't even matter where Marvel's at anymore. You could have 50 movies and it wouldn't matter because people are just exhausted with that content. And it wouldn't matter if you go to DC or not. It's still a comic book thing, and people are just tired of it. And I don't think that something like Superman is going to really rejuvenize or really regenerate much interest into the series or into the genre itself. I just think the genre just needs a break, and I think that is the future for the genre. I've said it before. I think that we are going into a time now that is going to reflect the 2000s, where we're going to have like a few films here and there, but not to the volume of what we have currently, where it's like 4 or 5 movies per year. It's probably going to come down to like 2 or 3 movies per year, or even less than that, because people are more specific when it comes to what they will and will not invest into. They like their nostalgia. They like their older characters. They're not into looking at. They're not going to be that as interested to see new things. They want to see things that they are familiar with and that they associate with and that they already have established interest for. In the case of the DC Universe, They're having to reboot everything again. So you're having to start over, and you're having to compete now within an era that is filled with fatigue. And I just don't think it's going to mean as much. I really don't. I could be wrong, but I just don't see this new Superman film really taking off. And for DC proper, I just don't think that it's in their best interest to keep rebooting and trying to establish a universe. I just don't think it's going to mean much for them. It's better when they do standalone stuff, and they found success in that department. Look at the Batman, look at Joker, at least the first one. Like, it's better when they do that than when they do, these massive, universe, everything has to connect sort of deals. It just doesn't work really in their favor. So I just think this is going to fade because of just the fatigue that is there, and ultimately what Marvel had established for many, many years. I just don't think that DC is just going to really mean as much when it's all said and done, or when it is presented to you. So, and then with number 4, we have a series, of course, that is close to my heart because it was it's my childhood basically, or at least a lot of my childhood, and that is Transformers. I seriously doubt that this series is currently right now. The series is in big trouble because we have a live action film in the form of Rise of the Beast, which didn't do all that well. Then they tried going animated, and they did Transformers 1, and that didn't end up doing well either. So now you're basically stuck in a place of, where do we go from here? Do we try again with the live action, or do we try once again with the animation? It's difficult to see where the series is going to go right now, and I just don't see it really existing in a couple of years. I just think that Transformers has done what it's done, and I think that that's pretty much it. I don't think that they're going to be able to bring back new life into the series. I don't think people are really, just currently as it stands, that interested in the brand. And I think even the distributor, Paramount Pictures, I think even they are just kind of maybe calling it quits at this point because of just the current track record with the Transformers movies. Because we've not heard anything in regards to Transformers, and typically they're always Paramount, that's their bread and butter, that's their baby, that's the series that they rely upon the most to make them money, and currently that's not been the case. And we don't. I think that the future right now for that series is probably being sold out to a different distributor, because I don't see there's not much of a profitable reason to hold on to the rights, so I think that's probably going to get sold off. And I doubt that they're going to do much with it. I've been hearing about crossovers with G.I. Joe and stuff like that, but I think really that's probably where the series is probably going to end up, is just what can we associate this series with in order to hold on to the license, because any other attempts, I just feel at this point, are not going to mean as much. We have an example of Transformers 1, which critically did fine, but clearly was not something that people wanted to see. And then we have Rise of the Beast, which was critically okay, did a little bit better than Transformers 1, but still not as appetizing or not as interested within audience members. So I just think that the series as it stands right now is just not, it's just not in a good place. And I doubt that it's going to bounce back. I think that it's just kind of going to fizzle out. It's going to have, an attempt here and there, probably rebooting itself again in a few years' time. But I just think that the series right now, and for a couple of years now, probably for the next 10 or 15 years, I just don't see having much life. And I doubt that many people are going to be clamoring for another Transformers film in the near future, personally. And finally, the fifth one, and I think we can all agree on this, even though the series makes money, it makes good money. I feel as though that as it stands, kind of similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I feel like this is going to die out in a very similar respect. And that is the Fast and Furious series. I think that there's going to be a point, similar to both Transformers and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's going to become a point where the series is either just too nonsensical or too long, in that there's way too many movies, that the audiences are going to just reject it outright. I mean, in some ways they are already rejecting it. The last film, was it Fast X? Didn't do all that well, even though it appears to have. If you look at it just dead on, it seems like it did well. But there's other looming factors to it that that didn't make it all that profitable. And we have supposedly the last film coming out next year or so. And they're going to do like spin-offs and other stuff like that. And I feel after that, that's going to be it. I don't think that the series is going to have much life outside of billing it as the last one. Similar to that of like the Mission Impossible series right now, where they're billing it as the final one, but that has more to do with budget stuff. I just don't think that it's going to mean anything to audience members once you've already established that the last one already happened. I don't think that any spin-offs or anything after that is going to really hold much water. And I just think that there is a point of when series just need to rest. And something like the Fast and Furious, I think, is definitely destined to stay in park, if you get my understanding. Because there is just going to come a point where there's going to be like 15 or 20 of these movies, and people are going to get tired of it. They're going to get tired of it. I feel like there already is slowly starting to become disinterest for the series, just because it's just nonsensical. There's nothing of value to the series outside of just, here's a car flip and here's a car doing stuff that would never ever happen, cars going in space, just dumb stuff. And eventually that dumb stuff is just no longer fun. So I think that that's the fate. I think that's the fate of the Fast and Furious. I think that that's just, I laugh because that's one of the titles, right? The Fate of the Furious, right? I think that that's just generally its fate. I think that it's just not going to have much life purely because of just what it is, how long it may last, and by what will be established as, first to last entry. I just think that people are just not going to care and drop off as a result. So those are the series that I believe that won't really hold much water in a few years' time, or in a couple of years' time. Obviously, they'll still exist in one form or the other because, these distributors have to hold on to the licenses because they're not going to let go of things. Of course, if they experiment with it and it doesn't work, then they sell it off to a different distributor. But in one way or another, they have an established audience, or at least an established success, and they want to try to replicate or try to regain some of that success. So they will never ever really just go away. But in terms of their current popularity or their current just attention, it's going to become smaller and smaller and smaller as time goes on because of a lack of interest, because of just how much you have to watch to understand things, by length of just time of how much you got to listen into, and by fatigue. There's just a lot of fatigue going on right now within just franchises, with just what is required, of getting into these things. It's hard, and it's becoming it's becoming harder and more specific of a group, for fans, and for outsiders, it's just, I don't know what's going on, So it's that group's going to become smaller and smaller, and therefore the profitability is going to become, or profit-wise, is going to become smaller and smaller as well, and thus your developments of said projects are also going to have to become smaller and smaller in order to make some margins on said films. But those are my thoughts on what I believe may or may not happen in the future. You guys let me know. What do you guys feel are franchises that are going to die out? What do you feel are series that don't have longevity or that are just going to just diminish as time goes on? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's compared. Sorry, I hit my microphone again. That's compared for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.